Culture Milan. At the beginning of our analysis, we asked ourselves three questions that guided us in the course of our further design process, relating to reclaiming crossings and piazzas as nodes of exchange, interconnecting neighborhoods with the city center, and establishing spaces of exchange in both. For this project, we focused on the middle transect that runs through a highly urbanized region that evolved through the years into a complex system of city centers intertwined by transportation infrastructure. Although there are a few parks and nature reserves in the region, most of the northern part is characterized by high density. Here, small towns and villages have grown together into a patchwork of urban fabric. Among this, Como, Lecco, Milan, and Pavia outstand as urban centers, hence they were chosen as the four main attractions for our metropolitan park connecting Lombardia. Starting from Como and Lecco, this project is made up of two bicycle routes aimed at two main focuses, culture and nature. Shapes of Green emphasizes the recreational and leisure component and passes through agricultural fields, forests, and historic sites, and is intended to connect the green spaces along the transect. On the other hand, Telling Stories focuses more on the cultural aspects of the region, highlighting monuments but also enriching everyday life of the local residents by connecting central institutions such as schools and sports facilities and providing access to sustainable mobility. The journey begins by train in the cities Como and Lecco, in order to overcome the Alps and the associated difference in altitude comfortably. The first section, Transforming Culture, is about getting in touch with the different historical layers of rural life in northern Lombardia. In the Heart of Lombardia section, the two routes lead to the metropolis Milan. The so-called city in the middle, rich in historical and cultural sites, is bursting with creativity and diversity. The final stage, the Great Wide Open, starts on the outskirts of Milan and goes through the open plains of Parco Agricolo Sud and small villages before entering the capital of Pavia, situated at the Po River. Elements such as rail tracks and important roads are clear obstacles for the development of a safe and flowing bicycle route. This safety issue is further emphasized by big crossings. At the same time, including existing bicycle routes can also be a challenge. In the samples, these tend to be suddenly shortcut, making it hard to create a coherent, continuous road. A final challenge for the routes is avoiding industrial areas. The concept behind the park is to create a varied journey starting at the Alps through Lecco and Como up to River Po in Pavia. The cyclists reach the starting point by train and travel through the farmland and agricultural fields. The partially abandoned cascinas will be transferred into cultural places that offer temporary accommodation, from anchor points for both routes, and support the local communities. Furthermore, major attractions can be visited to have a full cultural experience and to get to know the local identity. In the end, the cyclists reach the River Po through green areas and small villages.
In order to achieve the goal, three main strategies were put into practice. The transformation of abandoned places into spaces of cultural exchange is based upon revitalizing abandoned cascinas and urban infrastructure so as to add value to the area. Creating a soft mobility spine is based upon the principle of connecting people through a sustainable mobility system. And finally, equipping the neighborhood aims at reclaiming public spaces and transforming them into new places of cultural exchange. Such strategies were put into practice with three intervention methods: pit stops, ride and rest stations, and our piazzas. These three mechanisms offer the users different resting experiences: a pit stop that covers all the basic necessities, a temporary rest that further offers recreational services, and finally an overnight energy refilling stay where they can enjoy spaces of cultural exchange. For the creation of the routes, several aspects were taken into consideration. Green areas and major cultural points were identified, such as churches, art foundations, schools, cascinas, and marketplaces. These were chosen for their key role in becoming meeting places and interaction between locals and tourists. The two routes then follow the respective points of interest and combine them. Finally, the interventions are introduced into the areas along the routes. Redefining the piazza means to bring people together in spaces that previously seemed uninviting, by introducing elements like urban gardening, playgrounds, and local markets to support the local economy. We create an appealing environment for locals and foreigners. High-quality bicycle infrastructure, repair stations, public water supply, and trees help emancipate the local residents from motorized private transport and contribute to climate-conscious tourism in the area of Lombardia. Transforming abandoned places represents an inclusive project where the newly built and planned infrastructure will improve everyday life for locals, visitors, and their relationship. The Cascines are transformed into places that contain qualities for the travelers as well as for the locals. In this way, an informal exchange and a sense of community can be established. These include restaurants, campsites, playgrounds, but also co-working spaces, libraries, hostels, and bike repair stores. In order to ensure the safety of cyclists in the city, we separate the bike line from the road by a physical body, which also includes the function of enriching the green areas in the city. The Metropolitan Park connecting Lombardia constitutes a baseline of exchange and connection from the north to the south, but it's only the starting point of a wider future vision. We imagine that the Lombardy region is interwoven with such connectivity routes, just like veins, a system of cyclepaths with a clear hierarchy, main routes and smaller secondary axes that branch out and form places of cultural exchange where they intersect, a bit like how Milan was developed hundreds of years ago along vibrant trade routes.